What's up, friendos? This is Steve here doing something a little bit different here at WrestleJuice, the very first live AMA Ask WrestleJuice anything. I could flub what I'm talking about and I can't edit it. I can't go back. It's just going to stay on the channel. We've got a bunch of people here watching along with us. We got 13 people right now. Hopefully we'll get those numbers up a little bit, but it's Friday. I got kind of nothing better to do at noon on a Friday. We don't start stuff over at Going in Raw till we play GTA around 3 Pacific. So I figured, why not take my Ask Me Anything, Ask WrestleJuice series live for all the friendos out there who are interested in checking it out live, because I saw a comment that said that before, saying, hey, why doesn't Steve do these live? And I got a ton of questions here, so I'm going to answer in depth some of these, and then towards the end, I'm going to speed run a bunch of these questions. So hopefully everybody that's watching right now can hear me, and this is going fine. You know, I get in such a rhythm over at Going in Raw that whenever I do something new, I don't always know if it's going to work right. So hopefully, if you guys have any issues, tech issues over here on YouTube Live, you guys will let me know, and then nothing I can really do about it. I just keep on talking, I guess. I'm going to start off with this one here from Deep Voice Dude, because I put it in the thumbnail, I put it in the title. He says, do you feel that AEW giving away Bryan versus Omega on free TV? Now, when we talk about free TV, I know it's a caveat. It's cable TV. It's a lot more free than like a pay-per-view for one show, though. That's sort of what the free TV thing means. I know that like network TV is actually free TV, and cable TV, you have to pay for it, whether it's Hulu or Xfinity, Comcast, Spectrum, whatever, YouTube TV. I know you got to pay for it, but still, it's for free on TV, whatever. Do you think it's akin? Giving away Bryan versus Omega on free TV is akin to WCW giving away Goldberg versus Hogan on free TV. So I remember, because I'm old, I remember being there when they announced, when J.J. Dillon announced that U.S. champion Goldberg was the number one contender for Hulk Hogan's WCW title, and that the following week they were going to be doing, or 2 weeks later or something, I think it was the following week, they were going to be doing it at the Georgia Dome, and 60,000 people showed up for an episode of Nitro, and a lot of people were saying, well, you know, why would they do that? They could have done it on pay-per-view. I, as a fan back in the day, not having any idea that I was eventually going to do this as a podcaster, I was so geeked out. We used to get all the pay-per-views back then, but I was really geeked out. I was like, wow, this is awesome. This feels like a pay-per-view moment. And because back then, the ratings, even to the fans, like, it was openly acknowledged back then that ratings really mattered. And so back then, like, that sort of fed into the whole fan aspect of it. I enjoyed both programs. I enjoyed WWF, and at that point in 1998, I enjoyed WCW. And so I was fascinated by the Monday Night War and all the ratings and stuff, you know, who would come out on top, et cetera, et cetera. And so them busting out that match on TV, I thought was really cool, because like, oh man, they're really turning up a notch to try to beat WWF. And so I think long-term AEW's main source of revenue is going to be the TV rights. Like, if you look at how much Fox is paying, granted it's Fox, but if you look at how much Fox is paying for 2 hours of SmackDown once a week, it's like over 10 times more, I think, than what TNT is paying for AEW. TNT right now has a bargain, given that AEW's demographic rating, which apparently they care about, is sort of on par with USA's Monday Night Raw. And if you look at how much they're paying for Raw versus what TNT's paying, USA is paying for Raw versus what TNT's paying for AEW, it makes sense that they're going to want to drive that TV contract money up for when their next contract comes around. And so I think it's a win-win situation. The thing about AEW right now also is that because they are so new and there have been so many untapped dream matches and they have so few pay-per-views, that yes, scheduling special event episodes of TV is necessary now to continue to build your buzz, because you can't rely on big matches solely at pay-per-view. So no, I think that this is it's a win-win. I thought it was a win-win back during Hogan Goldberg. They botched the story afterwards, but partially that's because Goldberg got injured and they couldn't, they didn't know that was going to happen. So no, I think that is it akin to WCW doing that? Sure. But I always thought that was a cool idea. I also think that if you want to look at it in a negative connotation, WCW messed up by doing that, they should have waited till pay-per-view. I think that's a falsehood because I think WCW did run monthly pay-per-views, and maybe it would have benefited them from a business standpoint to do that, to put it on pay-per-view. As a fan, I do not believe that at all. And I've done, some amount of reading on the subject. I read the great Guy Evans Nitro book, and I don't think that was I think that was like the least of their issues putting that match on free TV. I really do. I think that they had a lot bigger issues over there in WCW. What's up to everybody here in the YouTube verse hanging out for this AMA? Let's continue on. Next question. Jesse Starr, who I think here is in chat as well, says, if money is no object, what wrestler would you most like to have custom Jordans for? I'm a big fan of the black and white color scheme, and so I would say Malachi Black. I think some custom Jordans for him would be really cool. It might not fit his character necessarily because he wears dressier stuff, but I think a pair of custom Jordans for Malachi Black would be pretty damn cool. I got a question here. It's kind of a deeper, heavier question about Ric Flair. Let me go ahead and find it. I know I had marked it as a question I wanted to have asked on the show, and this is what happens when you can't edit. Let's see here. Where is it? I know it was from Alyssa Leggett, and it asked, should AEW ever consider hiring Ric Flair? God, I wish I could find this. Here we go. She says, Alyssa says, how detrimental do you think it would be if AEW did hire Ric Flair after all that's come out recently about his actions? At the moment, many people in the internet wrestling community see WWE as the big villain, which is an accurate perception in many times, but do you think a hiring like that may shift the perception a bit? Could AEW afford to make a mistake like that at such a new company? AEW is very, very savvy about that stuff, so I find it really difficult to believe that they would hire Ric Flair at this point. I mean, they've already said that they would not bring on like the biggest name in the industry, and that's Hulk Hogan. So I would probably think that would it be detrimental to AEW? Certainly it would turn off a lot of their fan base. A lot of the fan base that appreciates AEW for taking a different approach. Let's just call it that. I think that fan base would probably be turned off. I just don't think at this point you can put Ric Flair on TV and kind of expect there to be a great reaction. I just don't think that that's the case. Certainly not with the AEW fans. I could be wrong about that, but I feel like they would know better, and there'd be too many people saying, "Oh, we shouldn't do that." So I think maybe backstage at AEW, maybe Tony Khan feels like maybe he dodged a bullet by not bringing Ric Flair on before that Dark Side of the Ring episode aired. And if he had, there's a good chance that he probably would have taken him off TV. So yeah, let's see here. Let's continue on with some of these questions that I highlighted here in the community tab. Let's see here. Here we go. FSI, why do some wrestlers seem to care about top titles in wrestling and other guys think of it as just a prop? I don't know. Everybody has different priorities, I guess. I mean, I remember listening to Scott Hall and Stone Cold Steve Austin's podcast saying I never cared one bit about the title. Like, if they put it on me, great. If they didn't, great. Like, he didn't care. He just knew, he understood that if everybody did their part and tried as best as possible to make it a team effort, everybody would profit off that. And I think that's probably the way to go. Other people are a lot different. They see it as a symbol of, hey, you're the guy, you can carry the company. Plus, there's probably a bigger payday if you're the guy. So, I don't know. Everybody's got different priorities, I guess, would be my answer to that one. Hedglin? Maybe Hedglin. If you had a job in the wrestling business, what job would you prefer to have? He says, I know wrestler is the obvious answer. I've never wanted to be a wrestler ever in my life. From the first day I saw like wrestling happening, I never thought to myself, I would love to do that, because clearly it's a job where you have to deal with a lot of pain. You have to be very coordinated. You have to be very athletic. And I don't have any of those qualities. I cannot stand pain. I don't like waking up in a poorly state. I'm not that very coordinated physically, and I'm not physically in great shape. And I never have been. I'd love to be, but I really don't have the discipline for it. So I've never wanted to be a wrestler. That being said, if there was any job in pro wrestling that I would like, I think commentary seems like it'd be kind of fun. I think I got the voice for it. Or creative, being in the back. Pretty much any job now that I think about it, like creative, designing merchandise would be a cool job, like graphic design, TV production, all that stuff I think I'd be pretty damn good at. But being a wrestler, that is like the last thing I'd ever want to be. Oh, he's here in chat. He says, Hedgelin. Okay, great. Awesome. Fantastic. Well, there's your question answer then, Hedgelin. All right, let's see here. Let's keep on going. Kind of related to that, Clark Munting says, have you ever done any pro wrestling training? No, because I would probably hurt myself severely on the first day. I see James from Deadlock doing that, and I'm like, no, I would not do that at all. Let's see here. Michael Jensen asks, if AEW had never happened, would you and Larson still be covering wrestling? Whether you like AEW or not, they have injected so much buzz that wouldn't be happening if it was just WWE. The latest being bringing Owen Hart's family back. Yes, we would totally be still covering wrestling because WWE pumps out enough product for us to cover it. Would we be doing as well? No, because AEW absolutely has injected a ton of life into general and certainly into Going in Raw and here at WrestleJuice. Absolutely. It's like our business from a business standpoint is doing a lot better because of AEW. So I'm very appreciative of that. Moving on. Luke Overstreet, sort of a similar question, says, if you could stop covering a show or promotion that you currently cover full time on WrestleJuice or Going in Raw and start covering another promotion in its place without taking a hit to viewership or revenue, what two promotions would you swap? This is a fairly easy answer. I would swap if 3 months from now, NXT 2.0 is still what we saw of it last week, I would swap NXT 2.0 and Impact Wrestling. I thought NXT 2.0 last week, debuting all these brand new, fresh faces. Most of them, I'm sorry, but most of them just simply are not ready for cable TV. They're not. I feel like there were out of 6 matches, 4 of them, I think, were like 3 minutes and under. It was an abomination. These people have just been signed in February. I prefer seeing wrestlers who have been doing it for years already. And Impact Wrestling is that place. Impact Wrestling has gimmicks and story logic that for the most part makes sense, especially with how they have to juggle their schedule and their roster. People coming and going. Now they have to juggle the Forbidden Door stuff. I really enjoy Impact Wrestling. I try to watch it on a weekly basis now. I know over at Going in Raw, we have plans to do watch-alongs for every pay-per-view that we possibly can for Impact. They do run them monthly. And I know it's difficult because they took Impact off of Twitch for us to cover the show on a weekly basis now. I try to keep up with it best I can. And if it was sort of a mandate to like cover to cover one or the other without a hit, it'd be Impact. But NXT 2.0 right now, it's still so fresh. There's continuity between that and WWE. It's still sort of a story in progress, and I think that's going to be the case for at least 6 months just to see what's going on. But if 6 months from now, if it's an utter crap show, and they've gotten rid of all the good wrestling names there, and it's just guys like Braun Breaker, Von Wagner, all those other guys like the Briggs and Jensen. If it's just those guys and they're putting on the same copy and paste match that they learned over the past 6 months, I'm not going to be interested. If they mix it up a little bit and throw some curveballs, then I'll be fine with it. But yeah, I'd probably prefer watching Impact at this point. Let's see here. Nathaniel Skiver, I think. Without doing a New Day triple threat and assuming Big E holds the title until WrestleMania 38, who should he defend against at the show of shows? Also, who should be the one to dethrone him? Oh, man. So if he holds it till 38, who should? Well, I think that Big E versus Goldberg at WrestleMania. I know, like it wouldn't be a great match, but I think it's one that Big E has openly said he would love to do. I think it'd be a lot of fun. He would clearly retain over Goldberg, and I think that'd be cool. In terms of who the person to eventually dethrone him would be, given that the draft is still like 2 weeks away, we don't know how that's going to land. I don't have Riddle, maybe Riddle or Orton. Probably not Orton. Riddle, maybe, or Keith Lee. Keith Lee's a good answer. I'll say Keith Lee. I think that's a great answer, actually. Let's see here. Read that one. There's a couple here at the top. Here's another one from FSI. It's a good question. More of a channel question. How do you feel about having a switch to a wrestling focus for YouTube to help push the content? I'm totally fine with it. And the reason why is because everything I did prior to WrestleJuice here on this channel, it was also all over the map. It's one thing to sort of do stuff that you just really enjoy doing, but my interests in that respect are kind of varied, from comics to movies to Star Trek to fast food. I was throwing a lot of stuff at the wall, and these days that just doesn't work, and I'm fine with that because sometimes it's sort of difficult to come up with a topic. With wrestling, it's a thing that I know best, and besides Star Trek, and it's something that I can sort of do without a ton of effort, and effort is a big deal because time is of the essence, and I already have a full-time gig with Going In Raw. So I felt fine with it. Once I figured it out, I was like, oh, I could do some fun stuff here that I wasn't able to do at Going In Raw because it's a two-man show. We're a podcast over there. We're not really like a channel that is specifically made for YouTube content. And that's more what this channel is. So yeah, it's shorter length. It's like me to you instead of me to another guy that sort of tangentially goes to you. Let's see here. Squared Circle Psychobabble says, here's the YouTube podcast question. Our podcast has been around for like 3 years. While we wanted to focus on both the WWE and AEW like you and Larson do and other YouTubers alike, our AEW content clearly does better. How are you and Larson able to cover both without a drop in views from either when covering both equally? This is a really good question that I'm not sure I have an answer to. We have built our fan base from 2014 when we started doing this on WWE content. And so when something big in wrestling happens, our audience is interested in our thoughts about it. And so that's why when AEW came around, we didn't experience a dip in views on either side of things. Our audience, once you have spent years building an audience, you sort of realize that audience, the audience that isn't into what you're into will kind of go away. And so you're left with kind of a really positive, nice, lovely, large echo chamber. And you sort of feed into your audience and your audience feeds into you. And so we still like WWE stuff and our audience still likes WWE stuff, but we really love AEW stuff and our audience really loves AEW stuff for the most part. And that's why when you see big special events for AEW happen, our numbers go up for that stuff. If there's something big and interesting that happens in WWE, not just marquee big, but interesting big, you see our numbers go up on WWE stuff. So I don't really have much of an answer to that question. If it's something that you feel AEW or AEW content does clearly better, I would suggest maybe considering being an all AEW channel, or at least trying it. I mean, it's a risk, but if you find that you're not gaining traction and that your audience isn't into one thing or they're into another thing. I mean, here at WrestleJuice on a YouTube channel, even at Going In Raw, certain programming that doesn't do well, even if a small dedicated amount of people really like it, you gotta look out for the greater good. So there's been plenty of content that we've ditched over at Going In Raw. Here at WrestleJuice, obviously, I knew that people knew me from wrestling, so that's where the audience would be. And so eventually I just ditched the previous 6 years of stuff and I just went with wrestling stuff, and now the channel's doing great. So I don't know, maybe for 6 months, try being just an AEW channel. Cover all things AEW. Cover Dark, Elevation, all the TV shows. Try that maybe. Let's see here. I'm going to answer a couple more here on the community thread. Then I'll answer some more here on the YouTube chat. Let's see here. Christian Womble asks, awesome character / promo skills with trash in-ring ability or amazing level in-ring that is like a charisma black hole. Which would you prefer? So basically, and this is not meant as a slight to one of these guys, awesome character / promo skills with trash in-ring ability. The closest I can think of that now, because I do think that he's got some charisma and I do think that he's got a good speaking voice, is Karrion Kross. I do not care about the man once he steps foot in the ring. Outside the ring, I'm all right with him. I think that he's got a good voice and I think he's got a commanding presence. Inside the ring, I think he's kind of trash. On the flip side of that, you got Cesaro, a guy who outside the ring, I do not care about at all. He has never been able to really connect with me in any way, shape, or form. I'm sorry. I love the man in the ring. He seems like a really nice guy. So I like Cesaro a lot. Inside the ring, he is one of the most creative, fun, interesting wrestlers to watch. Still to this day, still under WWE house rules. So I would go with that a million times over because I'd much rather see a great match in the ring than a great promo and then they get in the ring and they're crap. That to me is not great. So for me, it's 100% what goes on inside the ring. Eric Cool says, ever thought about doing wrestling movie reviews? I'd love to hear your thoughts on Fighting with My Family or even bad ones like The Main Event. I've never actually considered doing it, but maybe I can give it a shot. There's plenty of wrestling movies that I like The Wrestler from Darren Aronofsky. Scoot Bonds says, in the darkest timeline, let's say Larson retires from Going in Raw. I've heard so many comments about people saying, is Larson leaving Going in Raw? No, he's not leaving Going in Raw. But let's say this darkest timeline happens. Which wrestling YouTuber would you most like to replace him? He says, I personally would like a Steven Ross from Cultaholic collaboration. That's a great idea. Man, I don't know. There's so many of them. Alex, Queen of the Ring, I think is terrific. Whenever we're on like Quizlemania together, I always know she always laughs the hardest at my jokes. And that's something that I really appreciate because it means that we share a sense of humor. And I think we'd get along really well on camera. Of course, I can't leave out her Church of Joshi partner, Kayla. I think she's great too. I think we'd have a good time if we did a podcast together or if we did Going in Raw together. Of course, I'd probably, like the third man and be the enforcer. I'd probably just have him, I'd say, enforcer. Quit your dumb job. Let's do Going in Raw full time. Let's do it. That's probably the most likely scenario. But I mean, dude, I love everybody. I mean, everybody at Cultaholic, I would have a great time with. If I could pry anybody away from Wrestle Talk, they're all great too. Somebody here in chat here mentions RedTube here mentions Brian Zane. RedTube, good name. Mentions Brian Zane. Oh, Simon Miller would be so much fun. Yeah, TJ says Steven Simon. Simon Miller's amazing. He's like one of my favorite dudes. I love him so much. So that'd be an awesome one. Man, I don't know. There's like so many people. Denise Salcedo's great, although she's already working like a million different shows. So there's so many people out there in the community that I would totally replace Larson with. But let's face it, there's only one Larson, and he is part of Going in Raw. So if I did anything away from Larson, I couldn't replace him. I'd have to start over, or I just turn WrestleJuice into the new Going in Raw. I don't know. He's not leaving anytime soon. So that's not going to happen. Anyways, let's see here. Mondo Vulgare says, since I barely see anyone giving much coverage to this year's G1, what does New Japan have to do to regain the momentum they've lost over the past year or two? Or has the rise of AEW made it so there's no longer enough room in the wrestling landscape for New Japan to have that kind of popularity stateside? Man, New Japan, I think, number one, they took a big hit with COVID. They did the right thing and completely shut down for 6-9 months, something like that, a year. They did the right thing there, but I also question a lot of their booking decisions ever since the Elite left. Putting the titles on Evil, I think, was a really bizarre choice. Taking the titles off of Kota Ibushi, I'm not sure if there was more of a backstage choice in doing that. I just think they're kind of a bit willy-nilly on stuff. I think right now they're kind of figuring out who their new core five is going to be. and it's clear they really love Zack Sabre Jr. I think he might have a great shot at winning the G1 this year. My money's on Kota Ibushi winning it for a third time in a row because I think they're going to build him back up. But I think after him, it's Zack Sabre Jr. And I think if he sticks around another 2 years, Jeff Cobb is going to be a Wrestle Kingdom main eventer. I think those two guys are guys that they're really trying to build right now. Obviously, Will Ospreay as well. So, yeah. I don't know. They've just had some really questionable booking decisions, like both in their business philosophy, like doing 3 nights of Wrestle Kingdom. It's just, that's too much. That's way too much. Here we go. Don Shin says, in your heart of hearts, should the Hangman still be the one to dethrone Kenny Omega, or would you put the company on Danielson / Punk's shoulders? Personally, Page coming off the ropes to hit the buckshot lariat on Omega for the win will blow the roof off 10 arenas. You just answered your own question with that last sentence. Here's the thing. Daniel Bryan and CM Punk are already big, giant, huge stars. Okay? At least for AEW. They're huge stars. Hangman Page, if he's the guy to dethrone Kenny, will become, maybe not on that level, but certainly he'll be a massive star. I think the great thing about Page is that the AEW faithful, they're going to blow the roof off the place, which will immediately give him credibility in the eyes of casual fans who are just flipping over. So maybe if they don't know who this guy is, they'll be like, holy crap, who is this guy that everybody's into? He's got tons of charisma. He's got a really great story behind him. So if he becomes AEW champion, if he's the top guy, and he's able to fend off opponents like Bryan and Punk, then you're just making him into a much bigger star. It's kind of a no-brainer. It absolutely should be Hangman Page. I understand the name appeal of having your champion be, or the appeal of having your champion be a name guy. I kind of feel like you're making another name guy by putting that title on Page. I absolutely think it should be him. I'm going to take a look at some of these YouTube chats here. Laura Eskins Art says, do you think we'll ever get Kenta versus Punk? Yes. Yes and yes. I would not be shocked if this time next year you'll see a G1 be completely different, or Kenta will spend some time in AEW, but it wouldn't shock me at all if CM Punk decided to do some work in New Japan. I mean, if he's really in it for the same kind of reasons that Daniel Bryan's in it for, to go and do really cool stuff, CM Punk in the G1, I don't know if he'd do it because it's a really physically demanding thing, but I do think at the very least next year we're going to get the start of New Japan, AEW, Impact Super shows. And at one of those, you got to figure they're going to do Punk versus Kenta. So, yeah, I would love to see that. Stormtrooper says, with AEW's Dynamite moving over to TBS and Rampage staying over at TNT, I thought they were both moving to TBS. Do you think we'll see a new Midcard title or a name change for the TNT title? It seems clear the TNT title really needs to change names. I hate the name of that title anyways. But yeah, with them moving to TBS, clearly they got to change the name of that title. Let's see here. Fadeless says, if I could get you and Johnny from Deadlock on commentary on any show, I would love that so much. Commentary seems like it'd be kind of fun to do. I enjoyed doing on that one WrestleMania rebook thing that I did. I know I was sort of in character, but it's still pretty fun to do. Let's see here. Edwin Laws says, hey, Steve, who do you think gets called up in the draft? I say hotshot Braun Breaker for the NXT 2.0 title. Have him squash Ciampa. Ciampa comes up in the draft, and he gets to forget about NXT 2.0. That's what they should do. But I get the feeling that I think Frankie Monet has a good shot at taking the title off Raquel Gonzalez next week to free up Raquel Gonzalez to go to the draft. Otherwise, man, I don't know. They seem to like Loomis and Indy Hartwell there on NXT. Kushida, Kyle O'Reilly, I think are probably two names that might be heading to the draft. Let's see here. Jared asks, who would you pull for in a Cody Rhodes versus Christian Cage match? I would pull for my pizza to show up around that time so that I can get my plate out, put my pizza on it, look back at the TV. Is that match over yet? No? Okay. No. Of course, I'd root for Cody. Get out of here. I'm not going to root for Christian. Let's see here. Nice Guy Andy Podcast says, would it be better for Omega to lose the belt to Bryan, then Omega versus Hangman, number one contender, then Hangman heats Bryan, and I think it'd be better for Page to lose it to Omega. No, the other way around. Omega to lose it to Page. I don't. The rest of this stuff, I think Bryan should be out of the title scene until he can rank his way back up. Let's see here. Here we go. Jesse Starr again with the rumor of a women's mid-card belt being called the TBS Championship. God, I hope they don't do that. Do the two network titles get... Oh, shoot, lost it. Sorry. Do the two network titles get defended on their own networks exclusively? Are they moving? Are they both? Is one of them moving? I swear I thought somebody said they were both moving. Rampage staying on TNT? Okay, well, I trust you on that one. Yeah, I guess it should be the TBS title then. That would actually make some amount of sense. A mid-card title for TBS being for the women. That would make some amount of sense, I guess. Don Data says, should AEW use the Forbidden Door as a tool to develop talent, kind of like the New Japan excursion system? It's only big stars moving between promotions. Well, I mean, AEW kind of has their own excursion system with Dark and Elevation, but I think that's a great idea if you're going to start really developing people. You know, right now they pick from the indie ranks and they sort of develop into AEW wrestlers. But yeah, use NWA and Impact as sort of an excursion system. That'd be interesting. Or send them to I don't think I could send them to New Japan, but I don't know, maybe. Yeah, why not? I think that'd be awesome. Let's see here. Rampage is staying, Dynamite's moving. Okay. That's cool. Anyways, let's see if there's any more questions I want to see here. Okay, we'll end on this one. Josh Mao says, I'm not sure if this has been covered previously. This is such an obscure question. He says, what happened to Scoops and his updates on some of your older videos? This is a Going in Raw thing. A good friend of ours, Stephen Wilds, we used to call him Scoops, used to do a little bit of writing for Going in Raw. And he writes for like a bunch of he writes for stuff like Looper and like a bunch of the better websites of like cool geek stuff. He does like a lot of writing for that stuff. He's a really good writer. His name is Stephen Wilds. You should follow him on Twitter. He's really great. Okay, we'll end on this one actually. Some guy says, in your perfect world, who would you want to dethrone God's favorite champion, Miro? It's looking like Sammy's getting that build. It's not going to be Sammy. I get the feeling that they're going to try to take that risk on Jungle Boy. I think that they already have given him a couple different sort of things, like the most wins in AEW or something like that, or most matches in AEW. Jungle Boy, I think they're going to do something between him and Christian coming up. They really need to establish Jungle Boy's personality. They got to get him on the mic a lot more. And I think that maybe like 6 months to a year from now, you have him be the guy to take that title off Miro. I think that's what you probably do. Last question. This is a real last question. Fighting Tyler 14 says, do you think Danhausen will go to AEW? And how would you book him? It wouldn't shock me if he went to AEW. He's certainly not going to go to WWE. And I don't think he can just stay in. Yeah. Danhausen actually comes off to me more like an Impact guy. So I think he'd probably end up in Impact. Probably before AEW. Impact can do like a little goofier stuff. I would love to see that. And I just think it'd be a better fit for Impact than AEW. Impact can pay money. They can pay some decent money. And then maybe at a certain point you have him go to AEW. I don't know. He's still young, I'd imagine. So anyways, that's going to do it for Ask WrestleJuice, whatever. Be sure to hit that like button if you're watching live. Hit that like button if you're watching on demand. Hit that like button. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I appreciate it. Till next time, I'll talk to you guys later.